space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a quick reminder to grab tickets for our conference, Rebels of Disclosure, in Grafton, Illinois, May 13th through the 16th. We're about 70% sold out right now, so I know some people are kind of waiting to grab their ticket, but they're starting to go, so I would recommend you to take advantage of that while you still can, so you don't miss out. As always, there are live stream passes available, virtual passes if you can't make it in person. All that information is available at rebelsofdisclosure.com. And just to go through the lineup really quick, in case you don't know who's going to be speaking there, we have Niara Isley, Tony Rodriguez, Jackie Kenner, Lowell Johnson, Lexi Eisenhower, Mason Fury, Laura Eisenhower, myself, Vivian Chauvet, Margie Kay, Brad Olson, Sherry Divband, and Jerry Wills. We have quite the lineup. We're super excited about it, and we hope to see you guys all there. That being said, tonight our guest is Hamish Bartholomew, and he'll correct us on the pronunciation of his last name in a minute, I'm sure. But this is something I'm really excited for this episode today. He has a YouTube channel where I don't even think you have over 1,000 subs yet, do you?
No.
Those are my favorite channels. I don't know how I stumbled across one of your videos, and I was just guided to watch it, and I'm like, I sent it to Aaron. It was the video, the first rule of the SSP or something, and I sent it to Aaron. I was like, dude, this guy is on point with this stuff, and everything you said resonated. I'm like, yes. Like, you're getting to the real truth, past all this sifting through all the bullshit. And so I started paying attention a little closer, and then I finally decided to reach out to you. And lo and behold, you already sent us an email in the past that we missed. And so it was really cool the way we connected. And you've put out some videos since then. One of them, the Intergalactic Circus, which I absolutely loved. And I kind of want to theme this episode around that, because you talk about the hidden agendas and the embedded agents within the online community and beyond, obviously. And there's just so much I want to get into today. And you speak from such an authentic heart space. I can feel it. And that's why we're here today, because I love that. And there's not many people that are doing that or have the self-awareness to like understand, to not get distracted by all the stuff that is put in place intentionally to distract us. So welcome to the show, and please let our audience know how you actually say your last name.
Yeah. So thank you very much. My family says the last name Bartholomaeus, but I imagine that's just because that's how it's spelt. And no one in Australia 150 years ago knew how to read the name one way and say it another. They just got sick of explaining it. So It's meant to be Bartholomew, but my family says Bartholomaeus. So there you go.
Right. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for being here today. So
yeah, great to have you, man.
So let's just dive right in. I mean, I don't know anything about your background, but when somebody's speaking from the truth, from the heart, it doesn't matter, because I can just tell, like, whatever your path looked like it led you to the right place. So maybe you can just give our audience and us a little bit of background about how you even found your way into all this stuff, and then what you're doing today, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up on a remote sheep station in sheep and cattle country, kind of like out in the middle of Australia, not like Alice Springs, the middle, but the outback, outside of a mining town. And family had been there for 5 generations, so it was just kind of like, this is where we were, and that's how I grew up, on 100,000 acres, and it was just like my family and my grandparents were there as well, and so we grew up rural and remote, and all that entailed, like the rainwater and the generator for power. Like, we weren't hooked up to anything. There was you're just on your own out there. But I always had, like, I was the child that had the crazy dreams. Like, I had to have the light on to go to sleep. Like, that's my earliest memories, is not so much what happened in the daytime, but what was going on in the nighttime was pretty active for me. And I slept in a room with my brother, and he couldn't he couldn't go to sleep with the light on, annoyed him. And so I'd wait. He's 3 years older than me. I'd wait until he was asleep, and then I'd turn my light back on so I could go to sleep, because I knew what was waiting in the dark for me was like.
Mhm.
So I kind of grew up like that, at the mercy of sleep paralysis and all that other good stuff that we have. And when I look back on it now, a ridiculously overactive interest in military stuff and all of those sorts of things, but also a real aversion to competition and that military style of sports. And there was something about it that really turned me off that, even though there was also a magnetic attraction to it. So that's the story you've heard before. And it just like life just rolled along. I got into being a teenager. We had to go to boarding school. There were no high schools near us. We were doing remote education at home, and then went away to boarding school. And at some point in there, I just got sick of being scared of the dark. So I taught myself to not be scared of the dark. And that was the transition point somewhere around 13, 14, 15, where I just went, nah, I've had enough of this, and made myself be okay with darkness and nighttime and all of that stuff. And life just went as normal. Like I was always the weird kid. I was always a bit strange, but I knew how to fit in. And life rolled along reasonably well until something kicked back into gear around, I don't know, 2007, 2008. I was being as normal as I could, but something kicked back in around the high strangeness and the weird stuff. And I started to dive back in, and it just felt like home. So I just kept going, like I was doing, getting in through the religions, but then also through the magical stuff and power of intention. And, Reiki's always the gateway drug. It's like bacon for vegetarians, right? It gets you back in the door. And so because the boarding school I went to had a religious angle, I already had a pretty good beam on not going down that rabbit hole, because I'd lived it for 5 years. So I knew what was going on under the surface of that stuff to a degree. So I didn't drop into that trap of prayer and that sort of stuff. And I just kept expanding. It was almost like a chaos magic pathway of just going, what fits, like what matches from South America and from ancient Greece, like where's the overlap, what works from both of those, and what's totally different but works. So just sifting through the rubbish and just throwing away anything that seemed like just a cultural thing or a societal thing, and just looking for the mechanisms, looking for what worked continually. And I just kept going further and further and further down that road. Rekindled the idea that I wanted to help people, because I always did as a young child. Like I just knew I was here to want to try and help people. And at that age in normal society, that means you're a fireman, or God forbid, a police officer or something like that is your idea as a 5-year-old. Like I just want to help people. Yeah. And medicine, the idea of medicine kind of left me cold as a teenager. I was like, no, that's not the way to help people doing that. And so I just kept going and kind of fell into energy healing and like this unseen world that I was learning to navigate again, that had been with me the whole time, was actually something that some people talked about and people could work in, and, the whole shamanism angle. And so I just kept working on that again and again, and pushing into different pathways and finding. And so now that's what I do now. Is we're in a town, not in the outback anymore. I'm on the coast, the East Coast, and we're living on the edge of a town. But we still homeschool the children, because that's, they're happy with that. That's what they want to do, and we can make it work around the work that we do. And I do healing work, shaman work with people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
And
beautiful.
so it's, and I'm always looking for, how I can blend my own experiences into what's actually going on around us. What part of my own experience is just screen memory bullshit, and what parts are actually real, and how does that work at a time depth? Like, what would have that looked like in ancient Greece or ancient Rome, or what we're told ancient Egypt looks like, or or the Renaissance, or like how, because it's all the same energy. So I'm like, well, how does this energy translate to what's written in the Bible? How does this energy translate to what's written in the Vedas in India? Like this has got to be the same. We're all humans. We're all in the same space, roughly. So it's got to translate. So I'm always trying to break it back to how were other people doing it? What were the stories they were telling? And is it the same energy that we're working with? And I'd really, time and time again, I find that it is. We're talking about the same stuff with different words a lot.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so you just randomly decided to start going live on YouTube one day. Is that what happened? And
Yeah, I got pushed off a cliff with that. Was about it's the funniest thing in the world that I'm talking to a camera on YouTube. Like it's the last place I actually really want to be. But a friend before the 2020 stuff kicked off, a friend who's quite intuitive, she nudged me into getting onto Instagram because I'd deleted Facebook and Instagram. I had nothing to do with any of that stuff. And I was using YouTube to listen to other people at the time. And she nudged me into, oh, no, you should, like, I just think you need a bit of an online presence. You should be on Instagram. You should check it out. And so I got, of course, tangled up in the whole 2020 thing and getting shadow banned, and because I was saying what I thought, basically. So yeah, Facebook and Instagram and I have a little bit of history, but it was the same thing with YouTube. It was, I just got the nudge. I got the internal nudge, like you need to talk about this in a wider, like it's almost like I was hiding in a way. Like I was talking with groups, I was talking with people I knew, and it's like, no, you just need to put that out publicly and just put it there. Like it doesn't matter if no one looks at it. That's actually the least of your worries or issues. It just needs to be findable so that if people want to find it or they get directed to it, then they will, because I know that it doesn't matter about who you're following or the views or if something's out there in the public domain, like a book, a video, a song or whatever, you'll get directed to it if you need to see it. So that's how I operate. Like I don't think about, I haven't made a video in 3 weeks, I should do something, or man, I've done 4 in a row. Like if I put another one up now, it's a bit of overload. I just get the nudge. You need to talk about this now. And I just click record and I start talking. And then when I finish, I upload it. I don't go back and look for.
And it's beautiful. They're like 15-minute videos and, to the point. So let's just get into the meat of the conversation today and what even brought me here. So let's talk about this intergalactic circus, as you call it, because it actually could be very much viewed that way. And I think that's it's a proper name for it, because it's like who's who in the petting zoo,
Yeah,
and
totally.
So
how do you know what to believe or who to follow or what information is correct? What's disinformation? What's an agenda being pushed negatively? Right. There's all kinds of stuff, but what's legit? There's also legit, real benevolent stuff going on as well. So it's it's a bit hard to navigate it sometimes.
It's really hard to navigate. And I think, well, I taught myself how to navigate it by listening to everything. I just absorbed as much as I could, and 97% of it is bullshit. It's nonsense. It's just, but there's always something, even in the people that are controlled opposition, and you know everything about them, and it's just all wrong. There's still going to be stuff that comes through them for whatever reason. And like the flip side of that,
that's true, right?
Yeah, there'll be people that you love and like what other people love, and they're huge, and like 99% of what they say is just spot on the money. And just the last sentence, the last thing that they say, or something buried in the middle, is total, like it just turns the whole thing in the wrong direction and you're off on a tangent. And so, yeah, I mean, if you like watching movies or any of that stuff, like there's all this stuff in there, but you've got to wade through so much rubbish to find the good stuff. It's hard work.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the things you talked about is basically the reality of the galactic presence here on Terra, but also the reality of the infiltrators, I guess you could say, the embedded agents and the hidden agendas within the online community. And it's an information war, it's a spiritual war. It's not, none of it's there by accident. And you break it down so beautifully in the video, in the Intergalactic Circus video, but you kind of helping the audience see through the distortions and recognize what is what. So how did you start doing that? Like what did you start, like give our audience an example of like something that like you just like, no, this is a red flag. And how did you see through that,
Yeah, I guess how it happened was with the comparative religion stuff. It's a start point, was comparing all the different religions to each other and going, what's the same here? And then comparing cultures to each other and just like looking at and so you start to see common threads, and some of them are not, like some of them dead ends. They seem like a common thread, but then they go nowhere. Like there's a lot of that you end up with as well. And the more you compare stuff, the more you find like these pitfalls and these cul-de-sacs and these dead ends, but also the more you find the bits that you don't expect that do connect and run all the way through, and you go, oh, look, that person is connected to that thing, is like they're all saying the same thing in a different way that all leads you back to Elon Musk or some damn thing like that. And so it's like, yeah, and like I said, doing your day-to-day thing and looking at ancient history. Like in my last year at high school, I took ancient history as a throwaway class, and it turned out to be like a pretty good starting point for when it finally clicked, like this idea of what history was. Like it's probably all BS anyway, but these books written about the Greeks and the Romans, and looking at it and going, yeah, but how would that translate to today? Like these guys are still, like, some of them are just grumpy old men talking about the youth of today and how they're not, like, it could have been written 5 years ago or 2 days ago kind of thing. So it's applying, it's the ability to look at something or take in a message without like downloading it into your whole body, just to kind of take it in and go, how would that apply to me in my life? How would that go if I tried to apply that energy to one of my children? Like, would that come across as tyrannical? Would that come across as heart-based? Like, how could I use this energy from this message that I'm listening to from the Arcturians or the Pleiadians or the Reptilians or someone online who, is there any way to apply this in my life? Or is it just like mind chatter that sounds lovely, beautiful words, it's very poetical, it's flowing, there's no heart in it at all. Like, right. It's clever, but it's not here. You can't apply it to your life in a meaningful way. And that's right. That's a pretty good test for what's going on. And even the SSP stuff, like the stories that we hear from people of their experiences, that are lived experiences, like whether it's a screen memory or whether it's something they actually went through, whether it was physical or whether it was astral, like that really doesn't matter to them. It's a real lived experience, just like any other traumatic experience could be. And you've kind of got to look at that and go, okay, now can I do anything with that? Like, can I apply that to my life which bit of that applies in a meaningful way to my life, and which bit needs to be like, okay, we don't need to know about that anymore. Just drop it. It's not useful.
It's like, is the information taking me away from myself and forcing me to give my power to something, someone or something external to me, and it's trying to like wow me with information or using fear, a lot of fear, behind it, where it's like, that's the effect it's having on people. It's keeping them in a state of fear, anxiety, and looking for a savior, frantically looking for a savior, or hoping for some savior to come along with the information. Is it doing that? Because that's a big red flag to me, if that's all that's happening with the information. But if is it empowering me? Is it leading me into myself, saying, you are the one you've been waiting for, you have the power, exactly. Love is the ultimate reality, there is nothing to fear. That's the green flag, if that's what the core message is.
Yeah, and any information should be able to point you in that direction, even if it's totally false, because it's all in the soup. And so you listen to it, and even if it doesn't resonate with you at all, and you can just see through it and you go, this is a whole load of baloney, this is not working. Like, I'm not buying it. It's a distraction. Even if it's real, that's like a false flag, right? Even if it's real people died. Right. This is actually very true, but it's still a total distraction. Then that'll still lead you back to your green flag, because you can say, now I know what a red flag looks like. Now I'm going to go in this direction instead. Like right. Like we say, when they're trying to get you to look in that direction, turn around and look over your shoulder, because that's right. the direction you should be heading in.
Right. And exactly. Great point. I'm not saying just because that's the story and the information might actually be true, like that's somebody's actual experience, but that person themselves, maybe they're not in a place that's very empowering, and they're just telling their story from a place of extreme fear and extreme trauma still. Yeah. And a lot of other people, just by them putting that out there, are going to get caught up in that as well. And that's not the point. Like, that person's not doing that intentionally. That's just the energy that's happening from it. But someone that's at a higher place in their path, let's say, is gonna hear that information, not get caught up in the fear of it, but still not throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, oh, it's all BS because it's fear.
That's the one. Because it's not like, it's like a false flag. If there was a false flag and a naval ship gets sunk and all hands go down with the ship and you lose 600 people, like, that's a false flag and it's a distraction, and 600 people died.
Actually died. Right.
Of the 200 people that survived, all their mates died. They're terribly traumatized. That's going to bleed through to their grandchildren. Like, it's not fake. It's real, but it's also bullshit. It's
right.
a total,
at the same time. Right.
Yeah.
It's also a trap.
Some of it is, so you said, like, these people that are channeling ETs, and like everyone's doing it now. And like, sometimes you said it in the video that they're sharing, that group of ETs is sharing their truth with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth, right? Or not even necessarily mean that it's true in the first place. And because all these different ET groups, they all have an idea of how they think things should be going down right now. And
exactly.
And so this is where we have to learn how to decipher and navigate through the information that's coming in. So what do you have to say to that?
So if we were going to look at this, what we're in, and we just call it a construct or a reality, right? This thing that we're in, and a lot of different groups have said it's like a pyramid, and there are layers or dimensions, or Indian stuff calls it lokas, like that. It's described the same way by a lot of people. And so what we're talking about, dealing with these angels, these spirits, these entities, these ETs, off-worlders, they also appear to be like up through the layers, but like particularly so. We're operating at 7th density. We're operating at 12th density. Like, we hear all this stuff, right? So if the hierarchical thing is true, then these things are putting themselves above us, or they are placed above us in the hierarchy, which means to a point, they haven't got a lot of skin in the game to actually want to change or make things shift around like we do. Like, they're not at the bottom rung, down in the density, holding this whole thing up with their physical body like we are. So the message that comes through them is going to be very self-serving, and it may be beneficial to humanity, absolutely, but it's always going to be to their agenda. They're not going to cut their nose off to spite their face. They're not going to, no one in the Arcturian group, or the Olympic gods group, or whatever group we want to talk about, the Egyptian gods, no one in any of those groups, if they're in layers above us, are going to throw themselves under the bus for the benefit of humanity. That's nonsense. No one is going to do that. So you've got to always listen to these messages of galactic federations, or no, they're the bad guys. You want to deal with the Galactic Confederation. No, they're the bad guys as well. You want to deal with, there's all this bloody competing. It's like government agencies all competing with each other, but they will all bow down to the paymaster. So who's the paymaster? Who's like running all this stuff? What's the energy behind all of that that's driving all of these things? Because you look at how the government works, and your government is actually the US government is laid bare a lot more than the Australian or the UK one. You can see this federal government and then all these agencies. And even though the agencies are all working for the government, they're all working for themselves, and they're working at cross purposes with each other, cutting each other off, doing dodgy deals, trying to put themselves. It's like a Greek myth, right? It's a bloody mess of all these factions fighting each other. And so that means there's someone at the top that they're all trying to impress and they're all trying to get close to. And that's what I'm always interested in is, okay, so you're putting forward what you think we should be doing. Obviously, having a physical body in this density or dimension that we're in is not the only game in town, but it's very important because we don't hear a lot about humans possessing Andromedans or Arcturians. We hear a lot about Arcturians and Andromedans and Pleiadians coming in here, telling us what we should be doing, guiding us towards our future. It's like, what is it about a physical human body with a spirit inside it that is so friggin' important? Because that's where the rubber seems to meet the road. So obviously there's something to do with us as a base or a foundation that really matters to what's going on above us. And these people, these beings, whether they're benevolent or not, they're probably going to sell you any kind of line they can to get you to do the thing that they want you to do. And it's like, all right, I'll make it worth your while. We'll do this thing that's beneficial to you and your family and maybe even humanity as well. But just do this for us as well. And I look at it like that because I was taught formally by someone for a couple of years in shaman work and dealing with entities, dealing with spirits, dealing with demons. I didn't actually call anything in or do a lot with that because it's not my bag at all. I just fubbed over that and kept going. But the way these things work, the hierarchies and this has been explained down through the ages, and they call them demons or they call them jinn or they call them whatever. But this is the same, Elohim. It's all the same behavior. They're all doing the same stuff. And what comes to you always is they're always doing shit to humans. There's something about our bodies and in this physicality with a spirit inside them that must be super powerful because they're all in here tinkering with us for some reason. So you've got to just keep that in your head that even though they're all powerful and they're small g gods and they're aliens or whatever, angels, if they're so powerful, what are they even worried about us for? We would be like ants to them. But they always seem to be back here doing stuff with us. So that means that we're a lot more important than meets the eye, I feel.
Yeah, and I think we've been described.
That's a big subject.
We've been described by a few people as like genetic royalty, if you want to look at it that way. But also, it's like, let's just say that they have karma as well. And somehow by interfering with us at any point in our timeline, that they're karmically tied to the human race now. And they can't ascend unless we ascend. So it's in their best interest.
It's helping themselves as well.
Right. It's in their best interest to help us. Otherwise, they're not going to go anywhere up this ladder,
Yeah. That's a perfect way of describing it. And even if you didn't like the word karma or its connotations, you could just say, look, we're all in the same construct. Like, they're not out, whatever this construct is that we're in, they're not outside of it. The galactics are in here with us. The gods are in here with us.
Right.
Maybe they can get it in and out. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it though. So it's like, if there's an idea of getting out or there's an idea of working it out so we can like get rid of the parasites and get it working and sorted properly,
right,
we probably all have to work together and do it together. So they are tied to us anyway, like whichever way you want to slice that. And so then you look at the behavior of the small g gods or the spirits or the demons or the angels or the ETs, and it's not much different to humans. Like if you knew or you were told that your path in life was tied to the homeless guy on the street, like, man, Yeah, my path's inextricably tied to him. What I should do is clean out the garage, give him a home. There's a bathroom tied to the garage. We're going to help him out as much as possible. Like even to the detriment of my family or my unit, we're tied to him. We're really going to help him out. You're probably not going to do that. You're going to walk past and give him $10, or you're going to walk past and give him a meal, or you've got to keep an eye on him. And like, you know what I mean? You're going to do stuff that is helpful for him, but maybe not ultimately helpful. You're not actually going to do the thing that he needs, not right away anyway. And so why would it be any different with these beings? Like, right. If they are all powerful and all seeing, they certainly don't behave like it, because I pull, like, my caveat to that is I didn't have any proof for that. I always just felt like that was how it was.
Right.
But when I started doing this work properly, and a lot of it was, you know, energetic removals, entity removals, implant removals, pulling out implants. But when we pull them out, sometimes, well, I get a hit to say, is it beneficial to ask who put this there or where does it come from? And if we get a yes, I'm like, so can we be told? And it'll turn out it's not usually reptilian or greys. Like, even if they're the ones that put it in, the tech that I've been pulling out, like, time and again, it's Pleiadian tech, it's Arcturian tech, it's Andromedan tech. And I'm like, hang on, we keep getting told these guys are the good guys. What? Why am I, especially Arcturian stuff, I'm like, why do I keep pulling this Arcturian tech out? Maybe there's a breakaway faction, there's some. And so at one stage I said, so is this, I asked the question, is this some sort of off the books breakaway tech that's been stolen or hijacked, or is this an official program? And I got back, no, this is an official program. So what am I meant to do with that? Like, suddenly now we've got these beings that are meant to be helpful, but it turns out that they're perhaps a bit like down here, there's a percentage of them, 10, 15, 20, 30%, that are looking actively to help, to progress things, to move things forward. But there's also this huge bulk that are just going along with whatever they're being told.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. And reading the Sands of Time books, the Sean David Morton series, we're reading, it's 40 years in the shadow government. It's this guy's basically personal account, whatever, long story. If it's true, they talk about the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, the Arcturians, and I have yet to hear about them in a positive light working with the shadow government. And so like, we get from all the channelers on YouTube, there's no such thing as a negative Pleiadian and Arcturian and whatever. Mm-hmm. But reading a book from, like, firsthand experiences that our government and our military, Aaron's playing
book 3.
Price is Right model there.
Cool.
But it's like the military groups have a much different experience with these other ET groups than the channelers and stuff. And that doesn't mean anything, because maybe it's our military dealing with their military, and there are positive beings that are communicating with the channelers and stuff. So it's just, the whole thing is, it's an intergalactic circus. Like,
it is a circus. Yep. And that was the whole, like, and I put out, starting with the SSP video, I put out a couple in a row throwing everyone under the bus. And then I did an interview with Alicia, and we threw everyone under the bus. We went like, but the whole point of throwing everyone under the bus, including ourselves, because we've all been kind of duped at one stage or another by something, is, don't just because someone says they're an Arcturian doesn't mean they're good. Like, don't trust that. Just because some channeler somewhere said we're all ninth dimensional, believe in good and evil the way you do, and we're much more evolved, and like, a used car salesman could say that to you. Are you going to believe him? Like, just it's about having human discernment, in your heart, not in your head. You go, well, this makes logical sense, but something feels a bit off here. Well, so let me feel into it.
Right, like what I said earlier. Are they putting themselves on a pedestal and making themselves better than you, basically? Like, oh, we're so much better than you guys, so you need to allow us to blah, 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 Is it coming from that space, or is it pointing to the power within you and pointing to the God within you, because it is, and that's the truth. And it's saying you have it within you, and it's helping in that way, because that's when you know something, if you want to say benevolent or not. It's a true enlightened being, or a true master will never tell you I'm better than you, so you need to let me do everything for you, or give your power away to me, or blah blah blah.
They don't, but they don't actually tell the channelers that. It's all done through deception. Like,
well, it's done in a very deceiving way, very slick way.
So they're always gonna come across as benevolent. And that's the thing. Some of them might be like an archon energy working through them, and like you said, it doesn't really matter who's delivering the message or what the message even is, but how does that information feel? What is the energy of the information? What is the energy of the whole thing?
What's the energy of, right, exactly. Yeah. And what are the core principles within that information being taught?
Yeah. And it's about getting good,
leading you to something external, or is it saying that's all within you, and it's telling you have that within you?
Yeah. And it's about getting good at reading energy, because none of us, we live in an energetic soup with bloody electrical wires running through the wall or the floor or the ceiling, or surrounded by power lines and phone. Like, we're in this energetic soup that's deliberately set up to blind us. Like, all of that could be done in ways that are harmonic to the human body, and they're not. They're done in ways that are detrimental to the human body, very deliberately, in my mind.
Right.
So we're in this soup of like a microwave stew of this buzz, so that we can't energetically determine what's going on. And so it's about learning how to walk in the dark. It's about hearing a message, having an entity come into your room, having a being come in, and not listening to what they say, not listening to who they say they are, not just actually feeling it and going, no, that's creepy as fuck. You need to get out. Like, that's not going to work. See you later.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting, because maybe some of those people, how there's people out there that just like, they want to have an experience so bad. All these people around me get to communicate, but I don't. Maybe they're on some level being protected from all.
I think they are. Yeah, I think they are. And I did, like, the vision, the pineal gland and the third eye visions and audio visual stuff. And it's so easily hijacked. Like, I actually just linked on, someone sent me it, and it's a fascinating video that I linked in my community thing on YouTube about the, not voice to skull, but how you can just remotely, how agencies, it's an easy technology to get voices happening in your house, in your head, and they're using the power lines. They're using the as a carrier wave, and the gain, apparently, the way they send it, the further it goes, the gain just increases rather than decreases, because of the energetic soup that they're working in cities and towns and stuff. So it's not even this idea of voice to skull. It's like, it's way easier than that in a way. It's more general, more remote. They can do it in outside areas. They can, whoever they are. So this idea that, you saw a picture or you heard a thing, or it's so easily hijacked. Like, you think about the optical illusions of magicians and stuff. Like, our eyes are so easily hijacked. And if the hearing can get, if stuff can just get implanted from the atmosphere kind of thing through towers and stuff, then you can't trust any of that. Like, I'm not going to get in the car and try and drive down to town and back again with my eyes shut. You've still got to use your eyes and your ears, but you can't trust them to deliver you a relevant or non-distorted message. Mm-hmm. You've got to find other means. Like, you've got to get the body involved. You've got to get the heart involved. And then, and that leads you to going, how clean is my body?
Right.
How clean is my heart? Like, do I need to do some stuff to get the distortions out of myself, so I'm actually a tuning fork that can resonate with what's going on?
Let's talk about what it would look like if somebody was a sleeper agent or a Manchurian candidate. And so the whole concept behind that is, if they are being used, even they get so lost in the story themselves that they don't even understand that they're serving something nefarious potentially. Can you expand on that, please?
Potentially. Yeah. So if you were, and I mean, this could, this doesn't have to be, galactic. This could be in a family. We could look at satanic ritual abuse as like this works at all levels. So you would start with someone very young, and that would be the best. And you would just skew their perception of reality. It's almost like gaslighting, but not in a way to send them mad, and you're just going to keep feeding them this information and skewing their perception of reality about who they are, or what they are, or what they're, and the information that you're feeding is very specific. And so, and they're the ones with the truth. And you're going to, rather than beating them down like ritual abuse, you're going to build them up. You're going to make them feel like, what you're doing is correct, and you're going to work on their ego, right? Because then children are building the ego, so it's easier to do it at that stage. And then what you do, like if I was doing it, if this was me, what I'd be doing then is I'd be implanting intuitive hits in them that aren't intuitive at all, that actually play out. So you set it up, it's coming, or you deliberately orchestrate it, and then you plant the intuitive hit in them that is a total implant, like a screen memory, and then it plays off. And everyone says you're mad because there's no way that could possibly happen, and then it happens. Mm-hmm. And by the time you give someone 2 or 3 things like that, they're a psychic. They're an oracle. Like they know what's going on. And if you never tested that yourself to go, so I'm good, I'm a psychic, I'm an oracle, I'll pull out the tarot cards and see what works. I'll try remote viewing because I should be good at that as well. Like if you don't ever test yourself in the arena, you just keep getting fed this. You're going to end up buying your own story, and you're not.
Right.
You won't know. Like you say, it's Manchurian Candidate. In that story, he didn't know he was the assassin. He thought he was who he thought he was, and he had this alter personality hidden in there. Well, you wouldn't even need to do it with an alter, as long as you're controlling the feed of information to the child, because you're the government. I mean, look at education and media. They're kind of doing this anyway with people all the time, but you're either controlling their feed of information because you're the family and you can stop or start what's coming in or out because you've got code control over the child, or you're doing it from a spiritual, an ET point of view. You are contacting directly with them, and you're orchestrating things so they would work. I mean, this sort of story would fit perfectly in a biblical sense, or in a Vedic, an old Vedic story sense of the demon who whispers beautiful things to you, builds you up, makes you think you're someone in particular, and then sends you off on the wrong path, doing very destructive things, dressed up as follow me, and it ends up being follow me off a cliff. Right. Like it doesn't have to be SSP. Like that story would work all the way back through all our cultures.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Very well said. And I like what you said. Like you need to question everything and test everything so you don't get deceived. And that is a part of sovereignty. When you truly embody your own sovereignty, you don't just buy into things easily, and you're a lot harder to manipulate because you don't just quickly give your power away or quickly get caught up in your ego of things like that, where you're like, oh, wow, yeah, that must be true because that,
Yeah, that resonates with me. So that
you're in your heart.
Yeah.
Right. You're in your heart space, and you're not easily tricked by egoic flattery, or easily tricked by someone else trying to get you to buy into I am this and that. And
even if you are easily tricked, like what you're saying is perfect, Aaron, because it's like, even if you are easily tricked, you just have a practice, like a daily practice of checking your own shit. You just get your own ideas and your own agendas and your own, like all your directions and everything. And then imagine you're your mother or your father or one of your siblings or someone off the street, and have a look at them and go, does any of this stack up? Like, what does this work? How much of this works? Like, if I was someone from outside of the group looking at this, would I, someone with a heart who's not going to go, this is all just bullshit, throw it all away, but actually like look at it and go, okay, this is your experience. This is the direction you're going in. I think that's a bit off. That particular bit over there is a bit off. What are you doing listening to Russell Brand? Like, are you actually agreeing with what he's saying, or are you watching him because you know he's controlled opposition? Like, it's that kind of thing of just checking checking your YouTube playlist, checking your Instagram friends, checking your things that you're saying to other people constantly,
Right.
because stuff just gets slipped in there all the time, and you've got to watch it.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
important to get to a place where you can recognize like how it all feels to you, like we said earlier. Like sometimes I'll look at a thumbnail or a screenshot from a video, whatever it is, and it'll make me sick. Like I'll get that feeling. I'm like, I'm not even clicking play, and the video will have 1 million hits, and everybody will love it, and like, oh my god, this is the best message ever, whatever. And I'm just like, I can't. Like I don't know what it is, but if it makes me sick, I'm just like, I'm sorry, I just don't even entertain it these days.
Yeah,
And it's like, I don't know. It's just it's very interesting because I think a lot of people can, I think we're having this conversation so our audience and everyone listening can understand that this, I think it can happen to anyone. If you're not even aware that it's being done, that's dangerous. So you have to at least understand that this is what the war looks like right now, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can be caught in the crossfire sometimes, and
Absolutely.
you might not even realize it. So and understanding what to look for whenever you're going on the internet and you just woke up and you're looking for information, you're not going to really be aware of any of this stuff that we're talking about today. And a lot
Yeah.
of it, maybe it's meant to be learned the hard way so you can learn those lessons. But uh, it's very interesting to see how it's all
Yeah.
coming together right now.
It is, because I could have SSP experiences growing up, or even, more close to home, like now. Or I could be having experiences with Egyptian gods, or I could be having like whatever it is. And if I'm not going to actually pull that apart as if it's a screen memory hiding something else, like a different reality, and go, what's the energy under this? Like, oh, I was in a spaceship. I was on an asteroid. Oh, yeah, okay. Is space real? Of course it's real, because look, yeah, all right. Could that thing you've been in actually be an office building? Because you never actually, and the screens were just like screens, like TV screens. Yeah, it could have been. Maybe I wasn't on the moon. Like, because an office building, the military complex you're in on the moon is the same as a deep underground base, is the same as, and you were told you were on Mars, you were told you were on, but were you actually? And I'm not saying you weren't, and I'm not saying I wasn't. I'm saying question it, and don't question it as if, well, I'm just going to have a look at it. Like, really rip that shit apart and go, was I on the moon? Was it just an astral dream experience? Or was I drugged up in an underground base underneath my own city with windows that actually had screens projecting, what seemed like the outside, but it wasn't actually at all? Like, what did it feel like, that experience? And because that's what I do. I just pull that shit apart until there's nothing left to find out
And
what's actually going on there.
yeah, and that's so key because I actually just recently had an amazing Akashic record reading, which I've never had an official one before until recently, and it was only because I was strongly guided to it, and it's somebody we're going to be interviewing. So
Cool.
I eventually asked about one of my military memories, right, of being at the Air Force Academy, and when I went there to visit, I had a whole like full body break. I broke down in tears. Like I remembered being there and I remember what went on in this building, but certain parts of it didn't match exactly with what I was seeing. Like it was close, but not. So I asked, I said, like, I'm looking for validation. Is this like, was I taken? Like, where does this memory come from? And immediately she said, I'm hearing from another timeline. And I was like, that's what that's been my my whole theory anyway. And that's actually going to be my presentation at our conference, talking about how this stuff can occur in like pocket realities and time bubbles and other timelines. So even if you do remember it, that doesn't mean you're going to drive to that location and find exactly what you remember, because somehow you're shifting realities. And maybe that's a perfect security system, because now you come back with the memory, but it's not even from this reality. So there's no cause for concern.
There can't be any overlap. There can't be any, like there's bleed through energetically, but there's kind of no physical come through at it. And so, yeah, it could be and look, the parallel life thing. And even like even if we didn't want to delve into parallel lives and we just went, well, how about vertically stacked lives in these dimensions?
Right.
Like
right.
how many, if you have, and everyone's got a different word for this, but if you've got a highest self, if you've got a true self or an oversoul or whatever we want to call that greater version of you, are we imagining that greater version of you is only operating one warm body in this experience that we're calling reality now? Or is it more than one? Is it like a team video game, like an RPG, where you've actually got a team of 5 or 6 characters and you can kind of swap in between them or run them all at once? And so if that's possible, then do you have things running in other dimensions as well as just this one?
Right.
And then are there parallel, like how many bodies could the actual self that is you be operating in one moment, and how many are you actually operating? And it's kind of like an open question, but it makes a lot of this stuff make a lot more sense when you talk about the parallels.
Right.
Because stuff can be going on, like, and it's like, well, it feels like a clone of me. It's like, yeah, but maybe it's not a clone. Maybe it's actually another version of you running in some parallel time stream.
Right. I think it's all of the above. And like you said, our higher self, or you could call our oversoul, is, because that's outside of time. Time is a construct within this 3D reality that we're in, right? And we perceive it as time, like linear time, but really time doesn't actually exist. All exists is the now moment, right? So it's outside of time. Like time isn't a factor. It's just simultaneously has all these offshoots that it's experiencing, having all these different experiences, you could say, that all and then you say, well, why what's the whole point of it? Well, for what you could just say simply, I think the expansion of itself, of your own soul, it's just for its own growth and expansion, and to have the experiences.
And it's all part of the experience of being here. Like, and it's not just, we're grown up thinking it's just, one dimensional, basically. It's 3D, but like it's this way and that's it. But there's so much more to it. And as we remember these other versions of ourselves, that is the expansion, the realization that, wow, this is beyond what we can really perceive at this current state of our awareness,
Yeah. And what's going on outside of this construct, we don't really know. And if we do, it's probably not relevant to what's going on in here. But we get the sense that, like, a lot of people feel like there's something going on in here. Like, whatever this thing is that we're in, it's a bit skewy. Like there's a parasite issue. There's something going on. And some people are very, they're very sure of themselves that they deliberately, they didn't get trapped in here. They didn't get suckered in here. They're not trapped at all. Well, they might be trapped, but that's not how it worked. They deliberately jumped in because they're here to shut that shit down and deal with that. And that's not it's just our level, the 3D level, that's got the parasites doing like, if we look at it, the parasites are like these archons, or these, and they're above galactic. Like, they're past the god realm. They're telling these small g gods what to do. So it's like all layers of this thing are permeated by this parasitic issue, and the suffering and the pain and the whatever, the distortion, let's just call it distortion, that goes along with that. And so if we're here to do anything other than just expand and experience things, we're here to cut the distortion out. Like, there's a feedback loop between the electric guitar and the amp, and it's fucking awful. And we need to deal with it before our eardrums blow out. There's some really not good stuff that's going on here, and it's not just with us. It's like, it appears to be all the way through. So there is something, in this particular little pocket that we find ourselves in, there's certainly something going on that could be fixed or could be harmonized.
Mm-hmm. Or just even, maybe it's not our job to fix it, but like, I think harmonize is a better way to put it. Like, because it's all about frequency, right? So you're gonna find a way to resonate, or to match be frequency specific with whatever timeline or reality you're trying to manifest, right?
Yeah.
And so if you if you constantly are raising and shifting frequencies like the other those negative frequencies, they can't exist. And there's going to be
in the
well, it's
same.
going to create distortions, right? And that's what we're seeing. It's a very complex subject, I know, but
yeah. It's
and
a
then
good way
there's
to
like
think, though.
there's like the law of one information. I don't know if you're familiar with, which kind of talks all about this realm of information, like the really deeper, like they call it like the service to self path or the service to others path. And they're like, so service to self, like the Illuminati, the Cabal, whatever name you want to call them, and the archons above them, and the negative reptilians, they're on the service to self path. All they care about, they're like kill or be killed. We're gonna do whatever, no matter who it harms, we're gonna do it to benefit us or what they think is benefiting them. And that's like the service to self path. But they talk about the higher like the different densities, and they're like, as you go up in the densities, basically like the service to self can only go so far, because once you get to a certain point, the illusion of separation that we experience in this so much so in this third density, right, just completely is gone, and you physically feel what everything else feels. You physically, that connection is so apparent that you have no desire, you only have love, right?
You couldn't hurt anyone.
You couldn't if you don't, that desire would never even arise,
No, because you're
at
just
that
going to do
level. So the service itself can't exist at a certain point. It can only go up to a certain point. So basically, they're like, so you existing in this third dimension, you have to basically like, move up until, I guess you essentially kind of like graduate or work your way. And not that it's like a working, like, oh, I gotta please some other god or something. It's like, it's you doing it. It's you yourself that are like growing and expanding until you're like, I don't need those third density lessons anymore. I've already gotten as much as I possibly can from that. And then you only will experience whatever you need after that, and then it just goes from there. But the service to self can't, they're stuck. Like and then a lot of those beings, supposedly, they are so addicted to the things that come along with that, and they're so lost in that they don't want to ascend, right? They want to stay parasiting off of others and all doing all their things. They want to stay,
because there's nothing wrong with service to self. When you look at it, it is right and wrong. The issue with, like, if we're going to put it in that wording, the issue with service to self is it creates a feedback loop. And if you're, because the distortion, like we see the distortion outside ourselves, but it's actually in us. Like we're carrying this stuff in us. We're imprinted with it. We've got toxins coming at us all the time. Like we've got these distortions in us, and that's like, it's the bulk of what I'm doing is helping people to learn how to harmonize their distortions on the fly. Like you can deal with all your past stuff but it never ends. Like life is still happening around you. So it's not just clearing out the old crap, but working out how to personalize that in your own life so you can harmonize those frequency distortions as they happen, or even perhaps before they come in. And when you're if you're dealing service to others, if you're distorted, you'd be putting the distortion out. And at some point, you're going to see that you're actually causing the issue and you're going to self-correct. Whereas if you're just service to self, it's the guitar and the amplifier. The feedback loop is just going to go and go, and that's how the distortion builds up. So, I mean, evil is like the idea of negative or darkness, or I just can't even use those terms. I'm like, that's not the issue. Like the issue is distortion. And for some people, distortion hides a lot better in the darkness. But for some people, they can't see the distortion that's hiding in the light. Because, let's look at some bright, shiny light things like some of the churches and some of the pop stars and some of they're shining stars. They're bright and they're out there and they're distorted as. Like, so that distortion can hide anywhere.
Right. You could call it the false light or whatever term you want to use, but it's not true. It's not true light, or it's not true
that's
of frequency.
That's a great point to bring up, because a lot of what's happening right now with some of these with information coming through from these groups, right? Negative, dark, whatever term, negative, positive, whatever terms you want to use. I think we're seeing a very real manifestation of the false light coming through into these communities.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand like how to, I don't know, if you don't understand that that's possible, then you're going to be manipulated away from your intuition and you are going to be deceived until you learn that lesson. And maybe it's supposed to happen that way. I don't know.
Yeah. That's kind of not our call, whether it's meant to happen or not, you don't know. But if you see it in someone and you can like point it out in a polite way and they want to self-correct, you can help them. And if they think they're all good, then it's all good and whatever. Like it's not up to us to interfere in what other people want to do other than just, and I guess that was always my view was, well, it's not up to us to interfere in other people's paths. So I'm just going to stick in my own lane. And as you pointed out earlier, like me starting talking to the camera and uploading it publicly, that was part of the whole, well, everything's getting ratcheted up a bit. Like the pressure's actually, we're getting to this pressure point in the battle or the war or whatever. And so you need to be a little bit more proactive about that and start putting some stuff out there publicly for people to find, to say, well, look, you didn't ask for help, but if you were having this problem, this could be helpful to you, and just see what happens.
And you're adding your voice to the conversation and the collective consciousness.
Right. Well, and I'm so glad you did, because, right now we're having a very difficult conversation, because if people are going to accept that everything we're discussing is possible, they have to reevaluate everything that they think that they know, everything that they think that they believe in, and including all their experiences. And some of them might very well be real. We're not trying to say that like none of it, it's not all like distortions. Like some stuff actually happens, but there's like this whole satanic agenda, this whole system is anti-life. And for everything organic out there, they have inverted it and turned it into something to serve their agenda. So there could be a real Arcturian group that is benevolent, and then there could be the Satanist Arcturian and you wouldn't know the difference, because one of them's a false light and one of them's going to be probably more based in reality, and they're not going to be, flattering you, throttling your ego as much. But still, I think for there's something, they have created their version of everything that exists naturally, and they have inverted it. And that's where they deceive us, because we have to question. Like I had to, in ET, phase into my basement. I have no idea if she was good or bad. I had a positive experience, but I've never been able to question it again. And you know what I'm saying? It's just, we have to just don't give our power away to that stuff. And I know I sound like a broken record right now, but did you have anything?
No, but it's a good way. It's a good way to put it. Is like, say, extra dimensional or whatever you want to call that, phase in, and you had an experience with her, and then she phases out again, and you don't know if she was benevolent or not. Like you can't interrogate it. You haven't kind of gone back to try and interrogate the energies. You're just sitting with it still, assimilating it and going, oh yeah, okay. You didn't run over and grab her and try to say, my savior, and fall down at her knees and say, tell me everything, tell me all the secrets of and you didn't pull out your 9mm and say, get out of my basement right now. Like you didn't do either of those things, nor would you do that on the street if you're walking down to your local supermarket and someone popped out of an alleyway and said hi to you. You're not going to hug them and kneel down in front of them, and you're not going to pull your gun out and say, get out of my way. It's you're just having an interaction with another being, and you don't know if they're beneficial or not beneficial, but you're not going to go home and try and find out who that person was so you can go around to their house and abuse them for jumping out of the alley on you and scaring you. And you're not going to try and find out who she is and stalk her on Facebook because you really want to go out with her and have dinner with her. And it's the same thing with the entity in the basement, right? Are you going to spend the next 5 years trying to work out who she was, where she came from, what the message was, or spend the next 5 years learning magical spells and charms and like guarding yourself against anything coming into your space? It's like neither of those things. It's just an experience, and you're going to take it with a grain of salt, and you're just going to keep moving and see what happens.
Precisely.
Something happened. All you know is something happened that is out of the box of reality we're taught that only exists by the control system we're in.
Yep.
That's all you know for sure.
That's all you know. And just because something doesn't have a body or its body can phase through walls, or it seems to have a wider knowledge or perspective than you have, doesn't mean they're good, and it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're different.
Right.
And so you just grain of salt it and you keep going. And maybe it was a blue beam thing. Maybe it was done with sonar acoustics, and maybe it was an actual experience. And I'm like, when I'm doing work with people, we go back down through the linear timeline, which we know doesn't exist, but it's how we kind of spread it in here to make it work. We go back down the linear timeline to look at events, and people call that regression or whatever. But my caveat to all of that is, if we go to like a past event of yours that seems like a past life, and here you are in Egypt as a queen, or here you are as a slave in America, or we're not saying that's true, and we're not saying that's not true. We're just working with it, because usually when we work with it, shit gets better. Like, this is how we heal you in the moment. So I don't actually care if it's true or not true. As long as it works, let's use it as a tool. And if it's only a metaphor, like if it's an energetic metaphor that we can't quite wrap our head around, so be it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not like, I think that experiences happen, right? Like real stuff can happen, but it's just important to understand that we know we stop and question every time.
Yeah, everything. Stop and question everything. And not like, was it real or was it not real? The question you got to ask yourself is, what was the energy behind it?
Well, and that's exactly right, because what I do I have lots of crazy experiences, and Aaron knows this. And when I reflect on them, I don't spend too much time on it. Like you said, I don't, for some reason, I just don't marry myself to it. People ask me to tell the story, so I tell it. But what I realize is that if it shows back up for some reason, that means I'm supposed to revisit it. Like something will show up again, like that reminds me of it or whatever. And I'll be brought back to that moment. And like, okay, there's actually something in this for me. Let's explore that. And then I'll do it then, whenever it's showing up. But I'm not just going to, obsess over it. And Eric Von Daniken, whether you love him or hate him, he had one of the best things, what stories he ever told was he had a friend who was having contact with ETs. And he was super jealous because he wanted to have contact. He was like, can you ask them? Can I meet them? Whatever, blah, blah. He told this whole story. And the guy did. And the next time he communicated with these beings, he asked about it, and he told Eric, he said, they said no. They said that you can't. And he said, why? He said, because of your personality type, if they showed themselves to you, you would obsess over it so much that you would lose sight of your mission here.
Right.
Yeah.
And you would suddenly become so focused on them, and you would stop writing your books. You would stop doing, whatever. And so they're not like, sometimes it will be detrimental for us.
Sometimes what your ego wants,
right,
is what you think is a positive thing for you is not actually a beneficial thing.
And a perfect way to look at that story is, we don't know if the beings were beneficial or not who wanted him to keep writing the books. Like, we're not actually making a judgment call on, do you like Eric Von Daniken? Do you believe his work? Do you think he was full of it and he was getting fed false information? We're just saying that's the energy that was going on. And maybe they were non-beneficial and they were feeding him information, but they wouldn't appear to him because they wanted him to keep writing the books he was writing, because that fed their agenda in here. Like, that's on the table. We don't know that that's not true, but it doesn't matter. We're not trying to prove it one way or the other. We're just saying that's the energy of the situation.
Right.
Like some people will get caught up in the story, and it's really not great to get caught up in the story.
Right. It kind of goes along with ETs, like in the ancient past, as far as I can tell from a lot of these texts, it's like a lot of what you could call service to self. ETs showed up, had all this advanced technology, and then they were worshipped as gods, and they intentionally did that because they knew they would be worshipped as gods. And they loved the power. They was like they were on a power trip, right? Because any advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, just depending on what you're used to, right?
Yeah, totally.
Well, a more enlightened race of ETs would not want to be worshipped as gods. They want you to realize you're the same as them.
Yeah.
Just because we have some fancier toys and fancier technology doesn't mean we're better than you, and we're not gods, blah, blah, blah. We're all the same. We're all God. We're all God experiencing itself, right? Well, maybe those ETs that Eric was like going to be giving his power away to, like, oh, you're so amazing, well, and they're like, no, that's not what we're about. That's the last thing we want.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Same thing, right?
Yeah. And when like the prison planet aspect, like the distortion, I first spotted that because I grew up on a sheep station, like a property working livestock. And so you've got to work out how does one person, maybe with a dog on a motorbike, keep control of a mob of 2,000 sheep or 250 cows? Like that's tricky, right? You've got to work out, and the way you do it is exactly the way we're controlled in here. It's like the illusion of freedom and like keeping really wide. And then every now and then the dog runs in and it gives the one that can see that you're not actually in control, and it wants to run and it'll get away and the rest will follow. You've got to send the dog in to give it a bit of and then it'll get back into the mob and behave itself. And I was kind of reading the energies of what I was doing, what I had to do to work with livestock. And then the penny dropped eventually. I went, oh, this is what's being done to us in here by our own people. And this is what it seemed like had been done to us in here by these other beings as well. And I mean, it was at that point that I went, I can't really work with sheep or cattle like that anymore. Like I've got to, like, how hypocritical would that be? I've got to get out of this. But it was seeing that method of handling and just going, this is how you make this work. Like there are two ways to make it work. You can be like in and showing off and doing the hard work, or you can be like really back in the shadows, just like a nudge here, a nudge there, and everyone just walks along and they think they're going where they want to go, but you're actually steering them. And you could be benevolently doing that, but I mean, you could tell yourself that you were benevolently doing that, but the truth is most of those animals would survive in the wild if you just disappeared and didn't come back. They don't need you to guide them at all. That's not what's going on. So we're, like we said before, we're perhaps not the only ones telling ourselves stories to justify these things that we do. Like you could tell yourself a story. If I was just to let the sheep go and find something else to do, they die because they're domesticated. They don't know what they're doing. And if I wasn't here to help them, and a Pleiadian could be telling themselves that as well about humans, right? Or a god could be telling themselves that. So it's like these beings, no matter how high, or the beings that we seem to be dealing with and seem to be in the time depth of all of our stories in here, they behave very much like we do.
Right. Well, they're not very. We interviewed a girl named Katie Weiss. She's a channeler and one of the most credible channelers, and she said the same thing. Like she channels a group kind of like the Law of One, like outside of our game, right? And basically, if that being comes off of a craft, let's say, and has a head and arms and legs, like they believe in something similar to you because they have the same exact. They look the same. They're a humanoid figure. You share so many similarities already in beliefs just by looking the same, because and they're not that all that different from us, and they're not even better than us sometimes.
No, not at all.
Right. And
they might just have more advanced technology, but other than that, they're not really any different.
But that wouldn't make them any different to someone from the 1950s landing on a remote island in the Pacific of people who hadn't seen anyone from the outside in 1,000 years.
Right. I mean, that happened. There was a documentary I watched on Netflix in like 2010 or something. It was about these white people who found some tribe in the Amazon, and they had never seen white man before. And, they were throwing spears at him. They were flipping out. And the very first thing they did, why they thought this was important, the very first thing they did to this tribe who had been living there for generations was they brought they brought cane sugar. They brought like the sugar, you know, that comes on the stick. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And they brought a bunch of those, and they brought Bibles, and they introduced religion to this tribe, to this
And
culture, and sugar.
Missionaries do that to this
And
day.
sugar. Yeah, and sugar. And I'm like, and then so the people immediately became addicted over sugar, and they were fighting each other for it. And they learned the hard way that these people were actually cannibals in some sense. They would actually eat each other if they had to.
Yeah.
And they were fighting over the sugar. And then I'm like, for them to feel the need to give these people a Bible, like they've already connected in ways that you're probably never going to connect.
Right. And they think they're better than those people.
Right. So that's us. That's us humans doing it to other humans on our same planet.
Exactly.
Thinking that we're doing a good thing.
Yeah, they would those people that went in there would 100% think that they're doing the good thing, because they're spreading the word of their Lord, and you only, when the rapture comes, you only get to go to heaven if you're following that Lord. So they're saving their souls.
Right.
And who doesn't like a bit of sugar?
Right. Exactly. And then and none of them had any idea, like they were completely unaware of the concept of the Bible and Jesus and all that stuff. I'm like, well, then if that's so prominent, if it's so real, that why don't these people just innately know it?
Yeah.
Why don't they just innately know about all that stuff? It never needed to be handed to them. They found a way, you know.
How could a modern human be so tone deaf to doing something like that? And then you look at the ET encounters and you're like, oh, that's how. Like, it's possible. Right. Beings will deceive themselves and tell themselves stories to justify or legitimize what they're doing or the patterns they're running, and it doesn't really seem to matter what level you're on in here. That's possible all the way through. Right. Self-deception is very possible.
Yeah, and until you grow on your own individuated path, you no longer resonate with groupthink and religions and all these hive mind programs that so many people get caught up in so easily, right? Because you now can see through it and you don't resonate with it anymore. You're like, that's not attractive to me at all. That doesn't feel like me at all.
How many people have you run into who grew up in some sort of religion, some sort of Middle Eastern religion?
I grew up in religion.
Yeah, well, and they walked away from that, and they hit the New Age, and then they worked out that the New Age is just another kind of religion. So they walked away from that, and now they've found Jesus, because Jesus.
Oh, now I have the truth.
Yeah, now I have the truth.
Now I have the ultimate truth.
Right.
It's just another box you just jumped in.
It's just another box. It's just another box.
Right. Yeah, and it's people will ultimately looking for purpose in things that don't have purpose sometimes too. Like we're always looking for purpose in life.
Yeah.
And you can give something purpose that doesn't even have purpose, just because we're always looking for that.
And that takes us back to people on YouTube, some of them quite big names, or, you know, their accounts would make you think that they're quite big and popular anyway, whether that's real or not. But these quite big names in the space who are going to give you mostly what you want to hear, 80%, 90%, 95%, and then slide this other stuff in on you to just kind of distort it and twist it in the wrong, or not even the wrong direction, just a different direction, away from yourself and off your path. And it's exactly the same thing in a way.
Right.
Yeah. It all shows up in different forms, and it turns into cults and religions of its own.
It's a cult, basically.
It's just not held in a church anymore. It's held on your couch on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of, it's totally the same.
Yeah. So
talk about cult, but I mean, culture is a cult. It's the same word, isn't it? So if you're involved in a culture, that's a cult to some degree.
Right.
There's the sacred, like, God figure that cannot be questioned, is like everything it says is gospel truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like trying to find meaning in things that are ultimately, when you break them back to their base frequency, they're ultimately either distorted or meaningless.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so let's shift the conversation a little bit, because there is a way, you know, you've done a few videos on love, which I love. I love. But And you were comparing it to history, because we think we know what history is, but really history could all be a lie. We don't actually know, but we think we know. And the same can be translated to love. We think we know what love is. We think we know what it feels like, but do we really understand the frequency of true unconditional love? I don't know if many humans have experienced that, but it's also the energy we need to be in to help all these people who are being deceived and manipulated. And we don't have to demonize them and say, hey, these are the enemies. Like, they're all playing a part. They're all a stepping stone for somebody. They all have something to say, like you said earlier. Like, even this most controlled opposition person, they still have some good stuff that comes through. Ironically enough, it's everyone has something to say, and they all, part of their soul has something to add to the equation. So, and we can relate through love ultimately. And I'll let you take it from there, because your videos on love were beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those ones just streamed. They came out in a big long line, or whatever it was. It ended up being 3 of them. But yeah, it does, because we talk about love, and I mean, English is a fairly horrible language anyway, but we'll just use that word. You know, we know what we mean. We think we know what we mean when we say love, or true love, or with capital T, capital L, you know, or unconditional love. But you think you know what you mean about history, and someone says the Dark Ages, and then you're like, yeah, but did the Dark Ages even happen? Or did 500 or 800 or 1,000 years just get inserted in there? Well, there's no way that that's possible. Well, actually, there's quite a bit of documented evidence to show that at least 500 years was inserted and called the Dark Ages, and it never occurred, and maybe up to 1,000. So when you talk about, well, I see myself in a past life in the Dark Ages, or the Dark Ages were this thing, and then the Renaissance came for Europe, and you've got this idea of what you think, and that's great. I mean, you've got this idea of what the base on the moon was that you were at, or it's all kind of the same thing. It's like, but does it have any basis? Like, do you know what you're actually talking about? Because when we say love, we go, yeah, I know what love is. You know what you've been taught love is. Just like you know what you've been taught history is. But you don't, that doesn't mean you actually know. That just means you think you know. And what if I was to show you love at a depth that would just have you in tears of bliss, and like, I could hit you with that in 5 seconds. And you'd be like, what the hell's that? You're like, well, that's a taste of actual love. Like, well, I never knew. Like you said, there's a lot in here where we don't experience that. And there's a lot that keeps us away from that. But history is a great metaphor for it, because we're just going on what we're told. And you know, it's like finding historical stuff for the Bible 2,000 years ago. Firstly, we don't even know that it was 2,000 years ago. Secondly, there's like 2 books that are non-religious, or one account that they're using to legitimize and base all this stuff off. And it's written by the same guy that helped compile half of the stories that went into the New Testament and rejigged it all. And so you're kind of looking at it going, if this was 2020, if we were at a time depth of 300 years in front of 2020, what would the story be like that was getting presented of what went down in 2020? Who are the bad guys going to be? Who are the good guys going to be? It depends on who writes the story. And the same could be said for the Renaissance. Like, the Renaissance was this wonderful thing, lifted Europe back up again out of the Dark Ages, and we got all of this knowledge and wisdom. And you're like, yeah, actually, it was this big push of music and education and fine art, driven by the Venetians, who were probably the Phoenicians from whenever it was before, with the big navy controlling everything through a banking system. And it's like a reset. They told you what fine art was. They told you what classical music was. They told you how to behave. And suddenly this is what we should be doing, because this is what all the rich people are doing. And you have no idea what came before that, because it was just the Dark Ages, right? So you think you know. And so what do you think you know about love? How do you know that? Is it because of what your mother showed you? Is it because of what your father didn't show you? Is it because of your relationship you've had with significant others? Is it from movies you've watched? Is it from books you've read? What's your experience of love, and at what depth? How far do you think that'll go? because we look at the culture and we look at the movies and we look at the books and we look at our relationships around us, and they're not in great shape. There's a lot of distortion going on there for a lot of different reasons. And we know that we have a sense that real love, like true love, that frequency, whatever that frequency is like an overriding frequency that would just harmonize the roughest of distortions. This thing can just go, just level the playing field.
Right.
But we don't have a visceral experience of that. We have like some sort of awareness that it's possible, maybe, or we think that's some sort of fairy story and it's not actually real. It's just an imagined idea. So it's there. It's like, well, we know it exists.
Right. And so here's, just me being fully transparent. I experienced a major heart activation in April this year down in Belize, and it was this whole incredible story. And I dropped into my heart in a way I never even knew was possible. And I started feeling things that for one, it actually almost made my physical chest hurt, because I was like using my heart in a new way. But I was, everything was beautiful. Like I had this newfound love for everything. And it was amazing to be in those frequencies, and everybody would be like, "Oh my God, that has to be great." But not everyone else was, and no one could relate to it. And they were looking at me in the moment when I'm enjoying the bliss of of the present moment. And everyone around is like, they're not at that frequency. So you're like, you feel like an alien to them.
Yeah.
And then what I realized is the longer I stayed in that frequency, I started actually getting scared of it. It's like this uncharted territory, and you like subconsciously self-sabotage and bring yourself back down to something that's comfortable, because that real love, that little glimpse of it that I got, would require to stay in that frequency. It would require me to maybe even quit the podcast, maybe quit to literally shed so much of my shell of who I thought I was, and every bit of ego that was left to exist in that frequency. I wouldn't even like be compatible with the rest of life around me. And it was like, it's such a weird revelation that I had. And like, we always want to be in that love frequency. We want to experience, but it's like, if no one else is there, you almost feel isolated in a way.
Totally. You've almost alienated yourself, and it can feel so uncomfortable. Like while you're sitting in the bliss and the wonder and the amazement, it can feel so uncomfortable. Like you say, you bring yourself back down again, and then you say, but I'm here to do a mission, and the podcast is part of the mission. And so that was just a glimpse of what's possible, but I'm not meant to stay there. I'm meant to be back down so I can be in the world and do this podcast because it's important. And then you look at that and go, oh, did I just justify my own behavior because I was scared of the frequency and I didn't want to be there? Like, did I just give myself a get out of jail free ticket and justify it?
You tell yourself these stories.
Tell yourself a story. Yeah.
Right. But then, and the thing is like that, I didn't realize that was such a rare frequency to like achieve. Even when I intentionally try to go back there, it's not there. I can't reach that moment, that peak where I was at. And I'm okay with that, because I'm here on the journey. I'm here for the ride, and we're doing this. But I'm glad I had that awareness. Exactly. But I caught myself telling myself stories of why I can't go there. And going there also allowed me to tap into potential that would scare me as well.
Big potential sitting in there. And and the interesting thing about it, and this is like a little bit of a tip, or hopefully a handy tip for anyone listening, is the interesting thing about it, and we call it the heart space, and we kind of put our hand here, and it's just like a metaphor, but it feels like you are dropping into that space and you are there. I don't know quite how that works, but anyway, we're energetically going there. But it's like when you try to go there, like when you kind of almost push yourself, like you're willing it to happen, that's not it. Because if you're pushing into that space, that means there's something in your heart space pushing back to keep you out, and that doesn't make any sense. You've created a tug of war that doesn't exist. It's like a pocket realm. You've created this weird tension going on. So it's more about allowing and allowing yourself to drop in deeper. And because we're not, especially in the Western world, we're not big on allowing that entity to come into you. No thanks, actually. Like allowing that person to come into your house, allowing yourself to drop into, like we're the anti of that. And there's some very good reasons why, and that's not a bad place to be. But when you're working with yourself, like allowing yourself to drop into that space, allowing your breath, like allowing that out breath to actually just drop down as deep as it goes, maybe so deep that when you go to breathe back in, it won't be there.
Right.
And you won't ever take another breath and you're gone, but just going, well, I'm just going to allow and see what happens.
Right.
It's a very unusual setting for us to adopt, or posture for us to adopt, particularly in a Western style civilization. But that's the key. And that's why I'm so big on working with yourself, not working with other beings, because you can't safely do that with other beings. Like you're not going to allow some other deity, entity, God, ET, like that's just not where it's at. You shouldn't be giving them free reign like that. It's not a great place to be to start with. So work with yourself. And if you can't fully allow yourself in your own space, then there's something going on, and you can work with that. But you're never going to throw yourself under the bus. You're never going to end up in a bad place allowing yourself to drop into that heart space more, just for instance. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's ultimately a horrible thing to allow. Let's say, a lot of people work, energy healers, they'll work with other beings and angels and stuff. And I sometimes I think the reason we go and have a session, like, because we're all here on this planet in this reality to help each other. We're here to do it on our own, but we're also here to help each other. And like asking for help is one, we should be doing that. And it's okay to allow a being that you might trust, or somebody, another person, it's all the same. It's another energy. It's okay to allow another energy that you trust to assist you, because people are going to you, and that's no different than going to another energy that we can't perceive.
It's no different.
But, so you don't just open yourself up to everything haphazardly. You have to make sure it's a safe space, and you resonate with that frequency, and you give permission for that energy. And I think we're all here to help each other. So we can do it on our own. Doing it on your own is very rewarding. And there's a lot in that, to sit with yourself, face yourself, look in the mirror, all that stuff. But it's okay to ask for help too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes back to discernment of who you're going to ask, and trusting your gut, trusting your heart of like, no, I'm not going to go to that healer. Everyone says that massage person's amazing. I don't get a good feeling about them. It's not for me. I don't like. And working with yourself to start with is a really good way to build up that discernment. And then once you trust, because this is what I find with so many people, and I can see it in myself when I look back, is I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my own discernment. And so it's working with yourself enough to build up a level of trust in your own discernment. So then you can go out, and when you get the discernment of, well, everyone loves that person, but I'm not going there. No one wants to go and see that person, but I think that's for me. Like actually trusting that and going with it, trusting your own path. Because that's the biggest thing, is knowing how to trust it and working with your discernment. And there's no way to kind of instantly achieve discernment. You have to walk yourself into it. And the safest way to do that is working with yourself,
right,
to build that up.
Right. Well, and you get to know yourself. Like, we're on a path of self-discovery anyway. And for all of us, for the first however many years of our lives, we did not know who we were. We took on an identity that worked for us, that fit in with society. And then that path of self-discovery, you don't ever figure out who you are until you do exactly that, and self-evaluate. So this has been, did you have something to say, Aaron?
No, I just beautifully said. Very well said.
Right.
I'll say one thing. So going back to when you were saying don't force, well, that's it right there. That's the key. The second you're forcing something is the second you're off track, because the universe doesn't force. That's like the complete opposite of in line with the universe, right? And there's a really good book, I don't know if you've ever read it, by David Hawkins called Power versus Force, where he goes all in depth into that. True power, what true power is, and what a lot of people think power is. That's force. That's a false version of power. It's not power. It's actually the opposite of power.
It's the opposite of power. Yeah,
the exact opposite. But a lot of people, they think they have to force everything.
Yeah,
and true power is allowing and is getting in line with the divine, with the universe, and then moving from that space.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. That's true power. And
totally.
That's true love as well. Love.
It is true love. Yeah. Cause it's like, it's intimacy and it's vulnerability. Like that's true power. Like if you can be totally intimate with yourself and vulnerable, and then you can be like you were just before, Tyler, like actually very intimate and vulnerable about an experience that you had, like that's the power play, because you're going to do that knowing that's not diminishing you at all. That's actually empowering you, and you can relay this story to people, and
right. Well,
that's actually an empowering thing. No one's going to cut you down, and even if they tried, it doesn't matter because you're actually stronger than that. So that, exposing yourself like that, that's the real power play.
And the long list of things that I learned from that experience, and I'm still learning. Like you can't trade that for anything. And it's beautiful in that regard. So, this has been quite the deep, interesting, beautiful conversation, and probably trigger some people, I'm sure, but it's okay. That's what it's all about. If we're not triggering anybody, then we're in an echo chamber, and
exactly.
what good is that either? So,
if you're right, if you're living your truth, you're going to ruffle some feathers, no matter what,
Yeah,
and
and like you need to be, you honestly need to be listening to probably like 30% of the stuff you're listening to, you need to not agree with at all, because you just got to be like checking yourself against it all the time.
Right.
Exactly. And that's a great reminder, is that, even when you think you're not programmed or running on a program, you are. Like all of us on some level are being deceived or something. Like we're not better than anyone else. We're not doing this episode to sit here and say that we've achieved some sort of enlightenment and you guys need to listen to us. Like we're learning the hard way. We're learning the hard way all the time. And like, just because I think I might have learned a lesson or figured something out doesn't mean I can't be distracted and slip right back into that same frequency, and something might happen. We have to just constantly be navigating these times and seeing through the distortions. And that's why we had this conversation. So can you please let our audience know how they can follow you and where they can find you?
Yeah. Okay. So YouTube is just under my name. So Hamish Bartholomaeus, or probably Hamish Bart, would find it there. And I'm on Instagram as well. I think probably Hamish Bart would find me, or Harmonic Balance is the name of like the work name that I go under. So they're the two places where I kind of have a public presence, is YouTube and Instagram. And if anyone wanted to email me, I don't know if we want to put it in the comments, because I don't have a website. I had a website and I dropped it because I wasn't getting any traffic from it, and it just felt out of alignment. I was like, no, this is not the way to do it. So I've just got an email, and if people want to catch up with me, they either track me down on Telegram or give me an email if they want to do some work.
Yeah, we'll put that email. We'll put all that in the description.
Cool.
Yeah, but thank you so much. This was great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for doing what you're doing and putting your videos out. And it's really interesting the difference between interviewing you and watching your videos, because when you're doing a solo video live, you're channeling. You're channeling in a different way, and the information comes through completely differently than it does while you're being interviewed. So I recommend everybody go check out your channel and feel into the information. Go watch the Intergalactic Circus video and the first rule of the SSP video and the videos on love, the stuff we covered today. And you might get an entirely different message just from watching them separately, aside from just listening to us. So there's a different frequency there. So I really, that's interesting. I appreciate that. But
I would add to that in some way, everyone's channeling all the time.
Right.
Some degree, like they're channeling themselves, or they're channeling who they believe they are, or they're just depending on where they're at in the day or the week or the moment. So it's like I listen to people's videos and voices like I'm listening to music, trying to pick out different instruments, because there's always a frequency coming through somewhere that you can pick up. Sometimes it's not even the words. You're just picking up on the vibe.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what you can look at. You can look at somebody sometimes and know what they're saying without them even opening their mouth, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a great tool to have. And it's a BS meter, I guess you could say.
Totally.
Yeah. Right. Like don't even necessarily listen to the words they're saying a lot of times. Like you said, feel into the frequency that they're coming from and the frequency of what they're saying.
Yeah.
And the tone of the voice and all like the things, everything else but the words, you know, basically.
Yeah, everything else but the words.
Where you'll get the real truth more.
The words, the words are where the manipulation comes in and the spell casting.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Totally. So it's great to do that. It's great to do that with people that you might think are a bit questionable, like, or you know, like you already know that there's something going on with them, because then you can really see the chalk and cheese of like, I know what they're saying, but now what are they actually saying? What's actually coming out of them?
So there's this, this reminds me, Dr. Charnel interviewed this guy who does reverse speak, and he'll just take an interview and he'll put our presentation or whatever it is from that person, the audio clip, and reverse it. And the person will always show their true colors when you reverse to speech.
Wow.
And so it's a way of, if you can't really like hone into that intuition yet, it's a good way to like vet people. So some people like, they'll use words like if you play something backwards, they'll subconsciously somehow they'll say words like scam, deception, deceive, fraud. Like it comes through in the weirdest way possible.
That's so cool.
And it's scarily accurate from what I can tell from things I know. And then I heard the reverse speech on I'm like, wow, that's
you've opened up a whole new rabbit hole for me. And that's brilliant.
David Oates, so he was on Coast to Coast back in the 90s. Like he's the one that developed this, and I believe he's Australian as well, actually. So
interesting. Yeah, because I've heard the reverse. You know, I've heard the Beatles and all that stuff reversed, and I'm like, yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. Like, but I haven't.
It takes training to actually really know how to hear it and listen to it. But the people that he's done were some very big names in the community and stuff, and it's very telling and accurate. And it's amazing too, because you can do the good people too, and it's almost beautiful. Like, wow, it captures it. Like somehow when the energy is there, you're saying things without even saying things that you don't realize you're saying. Like it's the weirdest thing.
That's so cool. Yeah, because it's a frequency thing. So the frequency reads true forwards or backwards, but you're getting hypnotized by the words when it's forwards. So you got to turn it around and make it like Mandarin. Like you can't understand what's being said, but the frequency is going to come out no matter what.
Right.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, guys. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to us. Just a reminder, grab a ticket before they run out for the conference. Live stream tickets are available if you can't make it, rebelsofdisclosure.com. And if you missed our most recent webinar on our Patreon, the Q operation, it was 4 hours long. I don't know how we did it. But we did, and it's getting some great feedback. And if you don't really understand what took place during that time, we kind of covered it from all angles, and we included time travel in that as well. So it was really good.
It's a deep dive. Yeah.
It's a deep dive. And so you can find that link below: Patreon, Journey to Truth, Patreon. And thank you so much. This has been wonderful, and have a great evening, everybody. And good night.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.